Okay, hello everybody, and welcome to another webinar by Viva Mundo brought to you by BMI. Today, we are here with the wonderful University of South Alabama, and they are here to discuss email etiquette for teens. Now, anything email related, we will have the wonderful Zachary Thomas here to explain all of that to you in much detail over the next half hour to 45 minutes. And yes, please do feel free to ask questions. We are here for that. And we have a Q&A box just at the bottom of your screen for you to ask all questions, and they will be answered throughout the webinar and at the end of the webinar. Okay, I'm going to hand you over to Zachary, and you can start the presentation.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you for having me. Like she said, my name is Zach Thomas. I am the international student recruiter here at the University of South Alabama. We are located in the southern tip of Alabama in the southernmost United States, kind of sort of close to Florida, around a 2-hour drive from New Orleans, Louisiana, around a 4-hour flight from Atlanta, Georgia. So kind of located around large cities. A good location. We offer different programs from nursing to business to computing to engineering, whatever you think of, we have a program for it. We offer scholarships for students as well. Just a great overall university. So as I get into my presentation today, as you see, it is about email etiquette for teens. This is just kind of a general guideline to go off when messaging someone, when emailing someone, even in a chat bar situation. You could use these kind of tips and tricks when communicating with others, whether that be asking for information, whether that be kind of just communicating back and forth. You can use this etiquette as a guideline to go by. So of course, this is 2022. We have probably all mastered the art of communication by now, especially electronically. After COVID-19, we kind of got used to the virtual world more than the in-person world. And so it is really important, I think, to have a professional correspondence, a way to communicate with someone with some kind of expectations that we can go by, right? So I just have some pointers to keep in mind. These aren't necessarily rules to go by. They're just kind of unspoken expectations that people in the professional virtual world usually do go by, right? So to begin, of course, number one thing is to have a professional email address, right? I know some people may have email addresses from when they were younger, from when they were children, maybe as a younger teen, of course. But in the professional world, it is very important to have an email address that suits you professionally. It shouldn't have any kind of slang, any kind of, like it says, a witty screen name there. It should just be something kind of basic, something that people can read from all walks of life. Maybe if someone doesn't understand the email, maybe don't use something like that. But it's really important just to have a professional email address. You don't want it in someone's spam folder. You don't want your email going to the wrong person. So just creating a professional email address is very important. Oftentimes, people use their first or their last name or a combination of both in some sort as their email address, just so you can be easily contacted. You could be easily identifiable, right? So maybe some example emails, right? Say on this side, if your name is John Smith, right? A basic first, basic last name, you could use your email as jsmith@whateveremail.com. Maybe that be Gmail, it could be Yahoo, it could be whatever email you use, right? If you have kind of a triple name, maybe like a first name, a surname, and like another surname as well, even a middle name, oftentimes you can kind of combine those just with your initials, as in M for Mary, K for Kate, and then include your full last name at email.com. And remember, this is just so that way someone can like easily identify you. They can remember it, they can read it easily, just kind of making it easier for everyone as far as the communication goes. Oftentimes it doesn't have to be just your first letter with your last name. You could even do your first full name with just your initial of your last name. As long as, it's pretty basic, it kind of has the main gist of your first and your last name with whatever email you have, right? So another important thing is a formal salutation, right? Your salutation is how you kind of get someone's attention. You can kind of greet them, say hello, greetings, right? It should have a certain level of formality. right? Just a pretty standard greeting. Oftentimes you can use dear Mr., dear Mrs. If someone's using like a gender fluid pronoun, you could use dear MX or doctor, right? Oftentimes, if you are unsure, of course, you can Google search to kind of clarify. But another example would be to use the phrase to whom it may concern, right? If there are multiple people, if you are going to maybe a department, if you are kind of addressing just someone, if you're not exactly sure where it should go, you can use the phrase to whom it may concern. Use that as your standard greeting, and it's pretty easy. It's kind of your all around use for any kind of situation like that, right? So as we get more towards our subject line, right, you should lead with a clear subject line. Your subject line is kind of your first attention grabber for whoever's reading your email. Once it ends up in their inbox, it shouldn't have any kind of like slang. It shouldn't have any kind of just direction to where they would think it would go to their spam folder. This clear subject line allows them to read it quickly and kind of already get a general understanding, almost a summary of what you're writing about. It should be concise and specific, right, to what you're talking about, to let your reader know exactly what to expect, right? It says, for example, if you're writing to a teacher, maybe writing to a professor, writing to someone who works in a university, asking for a favor, asking for information, you could even use the subject line request for letter of recommendation, right? So whatever your subject may be, just make sure it's clear, concise, easily readable, and just something to get to grab someone's attention pretty quickly, pretty easily. Right? You should be clear, polite, and succinct, right? You should be kind of just generally, communicating in nice, good terms, right? It should be requests for advice, information, something you're not easily able to find online, rather than just a request for someone else to do the searching for you, right? It's kind of more polite to ask someone for a favor, for a request, make sure they're not doing all the work for you, but to kind of put forth a little bit of effort as far as the communication goes, right? If you're asking for information, make sure you've looked, because there could be a website with all your information easily available, right? So just kind of clear all your check boxes before you go. Before sending, of course, review your copy and make sure that it meets these criteria, right? Make sure it's written in complete, coherent sentences. Make sure there are no spelling errors. Make sure that no part of it is written in all caps, right? Just kind of a general, even when writing letters, even when writing like any kind of communication that's kind of official, more professional, it's always best to do a grammar check. Always best to kind of go over everything and see, oh, there's a mistake there, there may be a small mistake there. Just a second read over never hurts. It's just always best. Spelling errors, of course, that's just something that you can read over, and make sure, of course, it's not written in all caps, or even on the opposite spectrum, make sure it's not written in no caps whatsoever. So like no capital letters, no all undercase letters. Just make sure it kind of follows the grammar guidelines. Okay. Your thank you, right? After you finish writing whatever you speak of, whatever your kind of topic is about, after your requests, if you are thanking someone, if you are just writing an email just to communicate, it's common courtesy to thank someone for their time and for their help kind of reading with you. If you end your email with a thank you or a best and your full last name, that often is pretty helpful. It oftentimes is good to just like say thank you and just to be polite. And actually, before I move on, I'm going to read this question. It says, for subject, we always have to tell the message itself or just what it's about. For subject, oftentimes it's just to say a little, like a few little words of what it's about. So it's like a small summary. So instead of kind of rewriting the entire message in your subject line, it's best, in my opinion, to just write kind of a small few keywords, right? So if I kind of go back here, I'll go to that slide again and see. So for that subject line, right? If you're writing for like a teacher, asking them for a favor, right? Instead of just saying, hi, I'm asking you for a favor, you could just use the few words of request for letter of recommendation. So it's just a small, simple request, a few keywords to summarize what your main idea is for the entire thing. Great question. Thank you. And so as I continue, let me go back to where I was. Remember, sign off with a thank you. Thank them for their time, thank them for their effort and your full name, right? Many colleges, many people who work in colleges, they receive many emails a day. So it's best to kind of stand out by being kind, showing them kindness, telling them thank you for their time. Thank you for kind of working with you. Remember, clearly identify yourself. It's the best way to ensure that you get a response. Oftentimes, if you say your first name in the first paragraph, you can restate your name at the bottom with your thank you, with your sign off. Oftentimes, some sign offs that I have seen have been thank you, best. Another one that I have seen is kind regards. Sincerely is another one as well. But whatever sign off you give, make sure you just put your name under it so that way the person can be familiar and read your name and kind of see your name again to remember you. Oftentimes, even something that I will do, even as a student, I would include my student number, maybe my anticipation of when I would like to join this university, when I think I'm going to be admitted, things like that. Even if you want to include your major or like whatever specialty of academic program you choose. So like for me, because my name is Zach Thomas, I could include thank you as my sign off. My name's Zach Thomas. And let's say I was an engineering major, I could say engineering major, anticipated date of entry, fall of 2023. So just something to kind of make yourself stand out. That way the person can remember who you are, know who you are. Oftentimes, if you have a student number that is applicable to your university, you can include that as well. Just something to kind of refresh their memory as to who you are, right? Same thing here, boost your email, your image with a strong email signature. These kind of go hand in hand with the sign off as your signature. Oftentimes you can include your first and your last name, like I said, your student number, even your anticipated major, your anticipated entry date, as far as when you want to go to the university. So kind of just to clearly state who you are, right? How to easily contact you. You can include your email again. You could include maybe your WhatsApp, your phone number, just something that way they can connect with you if they can't exactly get a reply, or if a phone contact would be better, just something like that. Right, so of course, include essential information, right, as your name, school, your anticipated graduation year. Leave it to a few lines, right? You can use colons or pipes to separate. I would just separate it by line. It's something that I often do. It's something that I have often seen. You can include your email address and your phone number. So this one's kind of important. Avoid fancy fonts, colors, graphics, and inspirational quotes. Oftentimes, if someone sends you an email and in their signature, it has some kind of graphic, it has some kind of maybe quote or picture. Oftentimes that sends as a download and it may mess up with some softwares. It may be different on some internet browsers. So kind of just sticking to your text of your name, your signature, your sign off, right? Oftentimes that's much easier for people, especially maybe from country to country, from different places, different fonts, of course, the internet, the web browser, the different systems. Some fonts may not be accepted. So if you have maybe some different font, it won't be, it can't be read in another browser, maybe in another country. So just kind of maybe something simple, something easily readable for everyone would be better in this case, right? Just kind of a general idea, a general guideline to go by. So as we kind of talk about this, I myself have written a sample email. This is not a real email. This is just something I kind of wrote up as just a rough draft. So here in my title, right, it's a request for information. So right off the bat, if someone's reading this email, whoever I'm sending this to, they know my intentions. They know why I'm emailing this person. It's a request for information. So they know I'm asking for something. They know I'm asking for information. Just a sample email. I'm emailing teacher@email.com. You would just include whoever your addressor is, whoever your person is you're emailing. That's that subject again. and I go right into my salutation. Dear Miss Teacher, right? If it's a Mr., dear Mr., whoever. From there, you always put a comma, right? Dear someone, comma, leave a space in the middle. Oftentimes, that space is just for maybe like formatting, right? Just for kind of a clear, concise separation of your two separate ideas, right? My first one starts off a paragraph of saying an introduction. It's who I am, it's where I am, it's where I'm from, right? My name is John Smith, right? This is just someone random. I don't know anyone named John Smith, but I'm just letting them know, hi, I'm a student from a certain city in a certain country, right? I'm just letting them know where I'm from. I'm interested in attending the University of South Alabama. Wherever you go, right? You can include that university, whoever you're emailing, or you're interested in something, right? Just to connect your ideas, to let them know your intentions of why is this person emailing me? Why? What is their intentions, right? I also included the fact that I want to study a certain academic program. So that lets them know if I choose engineering, if I choose computing, if I choose nursing, I'm kind of giving them more information just to kind of use for my file, just to think about me as far as what is relevant to this person, what could they be like looking for, what kind of information, right? Then I just included some more general details of like, I plan on attending the university in the fall. I have read your website and would like to request more information. This first paragraph you can just use as kind of an introduction, basically just introducing yourself, saying who you are, what you're doing, where you're from, things like that. And then of course, as far as your other information, remember to always do that space again, leave a space in the middle, kind of just to separate ideas, separate maybe different paragraphs that you have, just different information. So it's not all together in one clumped kind of mess, right? Where they can, as the reader, it's easy for the reader to see this as two separate ideas, right? If you have different questions, right, of course, I just included how much tuition costs. If you have more questions or more information, you could always insert them in this second paragraph, and so on and so forth, right? If you maybe have some issue that you're dealing with, you can explain that issue to them and just kind of include it in that next paragraph. And then after that paragraph, again, do that space. The spacing for me is important just because if I'm reading this, it's easy for me to tell the difference, to distinctly tell the difference between the different ideas, the different kind of things that are going on, right? All right, and so one question that I see is, what would you say about the subject message? Does it need to be eye-catching to grab attention? I wouldn't say it needs to be like super eye-catching, like nothing like in all caps, nothing to kind of look too crazy, you know? But just, I would say, a general statement of what you're talking about, right? So if you're asking for admission cost, if you're asking for maybe application questions, you can include just those words like admission cost or application questions as two simple words just for your subject. Just so that way, as the reader, as the person receiving the email, they can instantly know, okay, well, this person's asking me about so-and-so. This person's asking me about this, right? So it doesn't necessarily need to be like crazy, of course, to get the subject across, just something like easily and quick and readable, just for the person who's reading and opening the email, just to kind of see that, like whatever the information is regarding, right? As long as you just include what you're speaking about within a couple of words, a few words, that is just as fine, right? They won't open another email versus yours if they think another email is, if it looks better, right? People will open the emails the same way, right? They won't have like one over the other. They won't prefer one over the other. They just will do it based on what you talk about, right? So just a clear, normal, basic email, that will work just fine. I would say, so one thing you could do as far as asking about your application if you have sent in all of your information, right, if you have all of your documents, if you have met all of the requirements and you have received some type of notice from the university, right? The university has said that we have all your documents, we are awaiting approval. I don't think you need to email them more than once, right? Maybe just a follow-up email of saying, thank you, I look forward to receiving my acceptance letter. I look forward to, or even say, I look forward to hearing back from you, right? One thing about kind of the kindness of emails, like the expectation of emails, is to not email someone repeatedly, right? You don't want to send someone too many emails because oftentimes they'll just kind of clump together. They will be repetitious almost and just kind of repeated the same information more and more and more. So with the whole idea of being polite, right, being concise, just remember to expect your reader to have time to read your information, to process your information, right? Maybe give them at least 2 to 3 business days before you reply, right? Just something to kind of give the reader, right, a chance to read your email, to understand it, process it, and to do whatever they need to do, right, as far as the work after, like needed to answer your email, right? So as far as I would think your application, make sure number one, you have all of your documents, make sure you have all your criteria met, right? And then maybe just give them like one single follow-up email of, I look forward to hearing back from you. Thank you. Let me know if I can help. Please feel free, right, to email me back if I can do anything to expedite the process, right? But as far as that, I don't think you need to email like repeatedly, kind of keep asking the questions, because it does take time to process the information. It does take time to process the application, just depending on all your information, right? And so, of course, at the end of my email, I thank them for their time. I thank them for taking time out of their day to read my email that I've sent. I could say, I look forward to hearing back from you. Please feel free to let me know if you have any questions, right? Again, I do the space just because you want to keep your information separate, right? You want to keep everything clear, concise. So I did my little double space. And then here's where I start my signature. Here's where I start my sign off, right? Best is a very simple, it's kind of a very easy sign off, right? Everyone can use best, right? It kind of goes for everyone, so it's pretty easy. You could say sincerely, you could say kind regards, kind of however you're feeling. Nothing too, maybe nothing too personal, right? Because remember, we are being professional. We are trying to maintain a good kind of formal image. So after that, I include my name, John Smith, right? That's not my name, it's just the name of the sample email. I included my email again, just right, just for the person who's reading my email, just for maybe like an ease on their part, just to make it easier and better for them. I included my student number or the student number, right? If you have a student number, if you have anything that's like helpful as far as your application process or your student process, I would include that just to make it easier for the reader, easier for the person who you're speaking to. And then last but not least, I have class of 2024. So let's say this person was supposed to graduate in 2024. We can just include their information there. And I see a question that says, how about emails for future job applications? So for future job applications, of course, I would maybe apply for the job or express some kind of interest. Let them know who you are, kind of the same idea there of your first paragraph, your introduction, just saying who you are, why you're interested, what you are interested in. As far as the number of applications, I would maybe email when you are interested for the job, maybe after your interview, if you are scheduled for an interview date, just saying, I look forward to the interview before you go. I look forward to speaking with you. I'm very interested. And then even after your interview, you could thank them for their time as well. And then kind of just say, I expect or I look forward to whatever their answer is, right? Whatever kind of decision they make, you could just say like, I look forward to your decision and thank you for your time. So yeah. And I believe that is it. Staff, do you have any questions for me?
Hi, hello. No, I think you've actually addressed most of the questions that are in the Q&A. I think maybe if you could give some advice of your own, maybe about how you manage your time when you're doing emails. Do you kind of keep a list, or how to keep organized with them?
Sure, absolutely. So like one kind of experience that I have myself, when I was applying for a job, the time between me interviewing and the time between me receiving any kind of contact as far as the application status or my interview status or even whether or not I was accepted, the time was a little bit longer. And so one thing that I did, instead of sending them multiple emails, I just kind of wrote an email similar to this, thanking them for my time, thanking them for considering me for the application, but asked, is there anything I can do to maybe help, to maybe expedite the process? You can say like, thank you for your time, thank you for doing this. When should I hear back as far as my status, right? My status of being hired, my status of whether or not you were approved or denied the job. So just things like that, that has actually happened to me. And so in that sense, I wrote an email similar to this, and within a business day, the person emailed me back and said, thank you for emailing us. We really appreciate it. Things on the business side were actually taking longer than normal. So it wasn't anything that I had done. It was just kind of the hiring process took a little slower than anticipated. And so with that email, it actually made me seem like a better candidate just because I was concerned, just because I was kind of asking about the job and like I didn't hear anything back. And so I was just wondering. And so kind of an email a formal email similar to this kind of was helpful in that process.
Great, that's super helpful. And I mean, from my side anyway, I would probably ask, how about cover letters? Because that's a completely different ball game. When you're adding a cover letter to your email, how do you adapt? Obviously, to each institution if they want a cover letter or application letter. How would you go about that?
So oftentimes cover letters differ, especially from country to country, maybe from university to university. One thing that I have kind of found to be true for me here in the States, oftentimes a cover letter is just your first kind of introduction to your employer, right? So whoever your potential employer may be, whether that be in a business setting, whether that may be in an academic setting, right? Oftentimes your cover letter is just an explanation of who you are, right? So oftentimes your first few paragraphs, kind of similar to this one, where you have information kind of spaced out. It's who you are, maybe your previous applicant or your previous job process, right? So maybe your previous employment history, right? Where you were before, how your kind of life, how your professional status is relevant to the job that you're applying now, right? So let's say if I were in engineering and I was applying for a job in engineering and I needed a cover letter, I would let them know that I attended a university for engineering. Let's say I did an internship, right? I would include those type of things because they're relevant and professional into my cover letter. And that way these employers could kind of read basically a sense of who I am before opening my resume and kind of seeing my individual employment points.
Okay, great. And there is just one question here from a student just asking you to repeat about the use of underline, italic, and bold.
Sure. So the use of underline, italic, and bold, I would say it differs from place to place. In this sense, in my email, the only reason that I did the underline here and here, that was just because that's information that you could use for yourself, right? So it's not necessarily a reason that you have to underline where you're from or the academic program you're in, right? That's just something that I did so you could kind of see the sample of what I was doing, because you could like kind of input that information for yourself. But oftentimes it is like necessary maybe to underline, maybe to italicize things or to bold, right? Because you could differentiate a lot of text that is in your email. So like me as a reader, I see a whole lot of text, a whole lot of information. If something is necessary, if something maybe of the utmost important, I can underline it, I can bold it. That way the person reading can understand that this information, right, is very, very important. It's very sensitive. Even like, especially with links, oftentimes links are underlined to let you know it is a website link, things like that. But as far as like your signature goes, I would not do much bolding. I wouldn't do much italicizing or underlining, things like that, just because you want to kind of keep that simple, keep it easy to read.
Okay, well, thank you so much for all of the information today. It's been super, super helpful. And thank you guys for attending and all of your questions. They've been really interesting. Should you have any questions post-webinar and just taking it in, I think Zach's contact details will be on the screen.
Yes.
Just a moment so that you'll be able to contact him should you need any further help or assistance. And Zach, really, is there anything that you would like to add at the end of your presentation? Anything advice-wise?
So just a general kind of wrap up. Remember that emails are forever, right? It's saved in the internet, right? You cannot take back what you sent. It's not something like maybe Facebook where you can kind of edit your status or edit your posts. This is forever, right? So once you send something, it is very important that you're sending and you're meaning what you say, right? A clear tone of voice. It can maybe sound offensive if you maybe don't word it correctly, right? So oftentimes it's very important to be polite, be kind, definitely read your message before you send it, and keep in mind that some issues are better discussed in person, maybe, right? If it can't be wrapped up in a short paragraph, consider making an appointment or visiting office hours if that's available for you. If not, right, just stick to emails. Remember our tips that we've discussed today. Again, something that we kind of went over earlier, patience is a virtue, right? Oftentimes we like instant gratification. We like to kind of have our answers now and ready, but sometimes some people are busy and a reply takes more time than you hope, right? If your question or concern is time sensitive, it may be appropriate to write a follow-up email, but realistic about your expectations, right? Maybe don't repeatedly send emails, maybe just one singular follow-up email, just kind of an email to say, hi, like, I sent you this message, looking forward to hearing back from you. Nothing to kind of pester someone or to kind of maybe repeatedly send an email, right? Right, practice common courtesy, show everyone kindness, right? We live in a tough world, so just show some kindness, show some common courtesy, right? Be helpful with your replies. You should do the same for others. Always check your email, right? Respond as soon as you are able. All right.
Okay, thank you. And there is Zach's contact details on the screen for you. So if you want to pause the video or even take a screenshot, you can right there to reach out to Zach, but he will be in touch with all of you who have registered and to those who are watching it on demand. So you will get an email from Zach very soon if you do want to follow up. And yeah, I mean, thank you so much for attending, everybody. It's been great. And Zach, thank you so much for your presentation. It's been brilliant.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed
That's
it.
okay. Awesome. All right. Well, see you soon, everybody. And like I said, if you have any questions, please email them below email. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.